All right, we are live. Good morning, Darren.
Good morning.
Good morning, Luke.
Hello.
It's great to have you here. Welcome to this week's GPTScript community update. We have a busy day today, so we're going to try and move pretty fast because we've got a lot we need to cover in the next hour. But we are going to be covering two topics today primarily. We're going to talk about GPTScript 0.5, which we released this week. It adds support for credential management into the project, and Darren's going to go through that in a little bit of depth, probably spend 5 minutes on that at the beginning. And then for the bulk of the conversation, we're going to be talking with Luke, the CEO over at Helix.ml. And Luke has been building a very cool platform for managing all of your AI experience, so all of your models, all of how you deploy those models. And he's been doing some cool stuff with GPTScript. And so we're going to take a look at that platform. We're going to look at what they've built around GPTScript, and then we're going to go through some cool demos. So I'm super excited for today's conversation. Hopefully we'll have lots of questions coming in. As always, if you have questions, just type them in whatever channel you're watching. We're on YouTube and LinkedIn and Twitter. And I'll see the questions, even if I can't answer them here from our platform, but we'll respond when we can. And yeah, it should be a lot of fun. All right, Darren, you're up first. Do you want to tell us a little bit about 0.5?
Well, I know what I'm demoing to do. I don't. So the releases we're basically like we don't have a specific cadence or anything like that. It's just kind of like as soon as we have enough stuff, we cut a release. So typically, if we do a 0.5, 0.6, there's usually a new feature in there. If it's just 0.1 or 0.41, then it's just we fix some bugs or whatever. And so we've been just pumping out releases. And so we're at 0.5. And the main feature that we put in there, because there's a bunch of other little things, there's a lot of stuff going on under the hood. But the main kind of feature in there is credential management. And so I can show you a demo of kind of what that means. Like the basic idea. Well, here, let me bring up this example here. So this is a very basic GPT script this is just showing off how to use the Brave search tool. So this is going to use Brave, the browser company. They happen to have a search API that I like to use because it's really easy to get an API key for them. So this is a very simple script that's going to use that Brave tool. And I think I might have shown this in other meetups before, but fundamentally it needs an API key. So how do you get an API key? The way we were doing that before was the easiest thing is just set an environment variable. And so technically that actually works perfectly fine. Just set an environment variable with a key and then the tool will pick it up. But from a user experience perspective, what is really irritating is the fact that basically what is that environment variable? I now need to look at documentation, figure that out. So we just didn't really like that experience. We wanted to just be a lot simpler, more straightforward. And so we put this whole framework in place, and this is all still work in progress, but the core framework is there and you can use it to get credentials. And so the user experience, I'll first show kind of the way it works. And then I'll just point to kind of under the hood how it's working and where we're going with it, because there's a lot more things we're doing kind of with the credential framework. So if I go and I run this run this example script. It just went right away. So the very first thing you can see is it's asking it's asking for what's my token or whatever. So let me I have it on the other screen here. Let me copy and paste this. And so you can say we at least put asterisks and so so it's now saved that token and it's now going to use it. So I mean, from a user experience perspective, it's pretty darn straightforward. It's just if you have a tool that needs a credential, the tool can just ask for the credential. But now if I run GPTScript, this is going to, that's doing whatever it's doing. There's a new subcommand for credentials. So this is the credential that it just created. So I can so now if I run this script, let me just cancel it and I'll run it a second time. It's not going to ask again because it already asked once. It saved the credential. The credential's in there. If you want to, you can delete that credential and it will ask you again. And then the key thing is these credentials are stored in your OS key store. So on Mac, by default, it's going to be your OS keychain, the OS X keychain, or the whatever Mac keychain. On Linux right now, I think we're still adding support. Like Linux is still just a flat file and terrible, but on Windows, it uses whatever, I don't know what their API is. But anyways, it uses the OS key store. Linux, we're still adding the I think, secret service. But anyways, so how does this work under the hood? Like if you want to create a tool to do that. So let's look at this is the actual implementation of this Brave tool. So going back, let me just show you again, because this was using this Brave tool here. So I'm going to go to the source code of this just happens to be in this current directory. If I look at this tool, this is the definition of the tool. This is a code-based tool, so it does some stuff. But you can see it basically just says credential, and it gives the name of the credential it needs. And so that's the exact same credential when I list here. So this ends up being like what we'll refer to as kind of like the credential ID. Well, if you go and you look, like this credential ends up being a tool in and of itself. Like if I go to, oops, that's not going to be the right. Go out to GitHub and I look to find this thing. It itself is a tool. The tool is actually just 100% a code-based tool. And what this does is basically it runs GPTScript with this prompt tool. And so it will prompt, it gets the result of that and then prints out, like the output of this tool is just what are the environment variables that need to be set for that tool. So now, like if you say, like the credential tool is all it's doing is basically, because before I said like we were just using environment variables to set tokens and whatnot. So we kind of still stick with that because it's a very easy way to kind of program and where do you get it from if you're doing code-based stuff. And so this is just going to ask the user, like this tool that has been written here, it just asks the user for, what's your token? And then it puts it into this JSON blob. And this JSON blob is what actually gets stored in the OS key store. And so next time we look it up, we have that blob. We know these are the environment variables that need to be set. And then we keep going. So there's this whole framework under the hood of basically how the credentials are stored. There's a plugin. It basically follows the same way Docker did it. We're actually using a lot of the similar Docker libraries. But then the key thing also is this prompting here is this plugs into a specific framework in GPTScript that we can now override the prompting. So if I want to embed GPTScript in another application, there's a code-based hook that you can put in so that GPTScript will call back to if you have a program which calls GPTScript, it then calls back to your program to say prompt the user for this. So then you can create like a web interface or something like that. So yeah, that's the whole thing. Right now, I'll say it's kind of like a little annoying to write these tools. And so now that we have the framework in place, we're now kind of optimizing writing these code-based tools because the vast majority of them are pretty straightforward. They're doing the exact same thing. So like most likely we'll get to a point where you won't even have to write any actual code to do this, but it's a process. So we've got the basic framework in place. You can see examples of using it with like our search tools, our image generation tools. But then we're going to keep iterating on this and doing a lot of stuff because like things get a lot more complicated when you get into like OAuth and all this other stuff. So,
Darren, does this so if I'm building a new tool for say Booking.com's API and I want to use that, I could just build the tool as it is, or I could build the tool with the credential management as an option. It's kind of
So this is purely optional. You could still do like whatever approach. So this is like if you want kind of a nicer user experience, but like the old approach was just read an environment variable. That works fine. So this is, you can kind of opt in and use this, and then it just smooths over the user experience. And then your, kind of consumers of your GPTScript stuff, they don't need to know much of what's going on.
And did you say that the did you say that you're going to have this will also work for the models? So if I want to use my model credentials, will this also cover those?
Yeah. So this is interesting because like the models, the way models work under the hood, like custom models, is it's like, in fact, you just write a tool which gives access to a custom model. And so I don't have an example of that, but basically it follows, because if I go and I look at, I'll show you, because I don't know if I actually have one that's using it right now. But if you go and you look at, let's say like the Anthropic provider, like, so this is the Anthropic provider of like how we get access to the Anthropic models. But the implementation of this is just a tool. Oh, yeah, I guess we are doing it. So you can see it's asking for the Anthropic credential. I now really wonder like what will happen. Like, this is always fun. Let's just try this. If I say GPTScript list models, and I get this provider, yeah. So it's pick a model, or oh wait, provider. Oh, okay. So I'm gonna go with Anthropic, I guess. Oh wait, I don't think I have a key.
Well, let's see. We'll still ask you for one.
Oh, okay. So this did the right thing, because I did AWS, but AWS is like everything's more difficult with AWS. You have to do a SSO login for their thing or whatever, because I don't actually have an Anthropic key, but are available to me right now. But yeah, so you can see, so you can plug it into the.
If you ask for that Anthropic one, it would prompt you to provide a key if you try.
Yeah. So if I let me go back, I'll run it again. I don't know if it saved that. No, it didn't save it because it looks like it failed. So let's try this again. So if I said Anthropic, no, it didn't even ask me for a key. That's weird. I wonder why.
Maybe you already have an environment variable set.
Oh, I already have it set. That's why. I do actually have a key. I forgot.
Probably.
Whatever. Yeah.
But if you didn't, it would probably have prompted you for one.
Yeah. But anyway, so the cool thing is like, so it's integrated into the model providers too. And so we're trying to just, it's like for all of the like tools that we're producing, we're trying to, make this nice, just easier. You don't have to kind of worry about this crap. So.
Awesome. Well, Darren, thanks so much for getting into that. That was awesome. And we'll be showing some other cool stuff next week that we're working on. But now I want to turn the stage over to Luke. And Luke, we're excited to hear your presentation today. Darren and I have known Luke for at least 10 years now, right? Since early days of Docker, Luke was working on Cluster HQ and some of the really early storage stuff around Docker. Worked at Weaveworks, and so it's awesome to see. I know you've been working in the ML space now for almost 3-4 years, so it's exciting to see how Helix has come together. It looks like an incredible platform. We caught up with Luke out in Paris at the KubeCon, and he was showing Darren and I what all he's been working on, and we got super excited. So we're excited to share it with everyone and show you a little bit about what Luke's been doing.
Nice. Thank you both. And yeah, I'm really excited about the credential stuff that you showed, Darren, because, and I'll talk about this a bit in the roadmap section of the presentation here, but there's things that we want to do with like running browsers inside micro VMs in Helix, like on the back end. And when you do that, then you're definitely going to want to be able to integrate with credential stores to like log users in on behalf of, or have the AI act on behalf of users using their login credentials and things like that. So yeah, I'm glad that's come out in the latest release. Cool. So yeah, I'm going to talk a bit about GPTScript in Helix apps, which is something we've been working on for a couple of weeks, and we just got it working. So please pray to the demo gods for me. But before I do that, Shannon asked me to talk a bit about what Helix is. So I want to just kind of go through kind of the big picture. So we're building this thing that we're tentatively calling a Gen AI fabric. The idea is that it will kind of knit together all of the use cases that people have along the top here with a control plane that allows you to either run models locally so that you can do them fully privately, or proxy out to the model providers as needed if there are capabilities that you need that aren't available in the open models yet. But it's interesting to see how the open models are coming along. I mean, just look at Llama 3 coming out yesterday from Meta. I'd be really interested to see how well that works with GPTScript function calling. And it's clear that these models within the open models, even if like within 6 to 12 months, they're going to be on par with today's closed source models. And so there's going to be a ton of use cases for private Gen AI that can run in a secure environment. And that's why we're making it possible to run Helix on top of Kubernetes, OpenShift, Rancher, VMware, and in VPC for companies that want to have like a lockdown deployment. And then in terms of the use cases that we're enabling on top, I mean, kind of the basic one is just chat and image generation. And for that, we have this set of, we're sort of constantly curating the set of the best open source models that are available, which is changing quite rapidly. But because we integrated with Olama under the hood, we're able to plug those models in very quickly when they come out, because there's the Olama team do an amazing job of getting the latest models running within days normally of being released. So you've always got access to the latest models. We then added this capability called API tools, which means that you can connect those models to APIs that you might have, internal business APIs. And then you can just ask the LLM things like, what job is Marcus applying for? And it will go and ask the HR system. If you have permission to the HR system, it will go and ask the HR system. And then you might go and ask the model, well, what laptops can I get for Marcus? And it would recommend one for him based on his job description. So you can kind of add intelligence from the LLM into making business work faster and more efficient. The next piece that we have is RAG and fine-tuning. We actually started with fine-tuning. We launched fine-tuning in December, and we're just in the process of adding RAG now, which means that you can do basically semantic search over your documents and data and all that good stuff. And then the most recent thing we added was GPTScript support a couple of weeks ago. GPTScript support, if you're familiar with in ChatGPT, there's a feature called Code Interpreter. Sometimes if you like drag and drop a CSV file into ChatGPT and you ask it something about the data, it will actually go and write some Python code and execute the Python code against the and import the CSV file into a pandas data frame or something in order to give you the answer. We saw GPTScript as a way of unlocking that same kind of capability in the Helix platform for something you'd run privately. The interesting thing, though, is that with the kind of code that LLMs might generate, or the kind of, because with GPTScript you can give it like sys.exec, so you can allow it to do anything. And if you're running that in production on the server side, then if you can talk GPT-4 into running sudo rm-rf/, which I haven't actually managed to convince it to do that, but I'm sure there's a way of convincing.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
and if you jailbreak that, then you might actually cause some trouble if you just run GPTScript directly on the server, which is why we added this feature to wrap or kind of isolate the GPTScript execution inside micro VMs. So anyway, that's all like what we did a couple of weeks ago, that kind of initial first pass of GPTScript tools integration. So with that, you can do like give the LLM a terminal and then ask it to do things like tell you how much disk space you have in the VM or stuff like that. You'd be able to then give it access to a browser, and it would actually run Chrome inside the micro VM and so on. So that was already possible. But then the thing that we're announcing today is this additional capability that we've built on top of GPTScript, which is called Helix Apps. So this is brand new. We're announcing it right now. And the idea with Helix Apps is that it's the easiest way to run GPTScript securely. And by securely, I mean without those security worries that I just talked about, and to do that directly from a JavaScript front end. And we also have an API, but we're focusing on JavaScript front ends for now, because we think that actually enabling, like, think about how many JavaScript developers there are in the world. There's probably some of them listening to the stream right now. If you can write JavaScript, then you can now build complex AI-powered applications with GPTScript and run them in production without having to worry about all the stuff I just talked about, like micro VMs running inside Firecracker or whatever. So yeah, that's what we've plugged in. So it kind of completes this architecture diagram. So this is the architecture diagram we had before. And then this apps piece comes in on the right-hand side here. And I think of it as kind of taking us beyond chatbots. So what we had in Helix already was this kind of icon here indicates all of these other features like the chat and image generation, the API tools, RAG and fine-tuning, and then the initial GPTScript implementation would all just run against our chat interface. But think about how much more powerful the applications that you might build are that go beyond just chat. And so Shannon came up with this brilliant idea for the demo that we then built, which I'll show you in a second, which is a front-end application that shows you something that you wouldn't want to do with just a chatbot. So that use case, that demo, is that we've taken a popular grocery store chain here in the UK called Waitrose. They do very nice food, and so let's pretend that we're this grocery store and we want to increase our revenue. And how do we want to increase our revenue? Well, we have this like genius idea, which is that if instead of just sending every customer the same newsletter every week, we could send them customized newsletters, because AI can customize those newsletters with some intelligence. And we can customize those newsletters by making personalized recipe recommendations for them based on the purchases that they've recently made through the Waitrose.com online shopping platform, for example. So, okay, cool. I mean, that's definitely kind of beyond chatbots, because it's not a support chatbot for Waitrose or something. It's something that will actually drive top-line revenue for Waitrose, in theory, by sending people stuff that they'll want to buy and will cause them to add more items to their basket. So let me take you through the database schema that we put together quickly for this demo. It's pretty straightforward. There's a recipes table, which you can see it has the name of the recipe, it has the ingredients, it has an image of the recipe, and so on. And these are actual recipes that Waitrose publish, so it's not like the LLM is going to come up with some sort of battery acid and frog's legs recipe that's disgusting. These are actually going to be like nice recipes because they're from the real catalog. And then there's also the products database, which is like these are the different products that you can actually buy on Waitrose.com. And then for each product, it lists which recipes the product appears in. And then this is the most interesting part, is this is the purchase history for the customers. So you can see here, and we've got two demo customers in our demo database. We've got Alice at alice.com and Bob at bob.com. And you can see here that Alice likes vegetables. She likes carrots and curly lettuce. And Bob likes more carby things. So he likes noodles and tortillas. You can see corn tortillas and these udon noodles and so on. And so if the demo works, you should see some of those preferences reflected in the recommendations that the AI actually generates. So, okay, this is where we all praise the demo gods, because we only just got this working yesterday. But let me show you.
Yesterday? You had it working yesterday? Darren, what an idea. The day before. It actually worked the day before.
Sorry.
I had my demo working a good solid 1 minute before we went live.
Well, that's gonna put me to shame if it doesn't work now. So let me show you first I'll just show you the app. And then I'm also quickly going to try and deploy a change to the app, both in development and production, which will show the different workflows that we've enabled in dev versus prod. So the first thing that you can do with this app is you can just tell it your name. And honestly, this is just so that the tutorial has a really easy hello world GPT script. Because when you say, what's your name? It says, welcome, Alice. In fact, I can show you that hello world GPT script. Let me know if we need to make the font bigger. That's just this welcome script that says, based on an input, say welcome input. And then, okay, so that's fine. That's kind of easy. But then if we log in as alice@alice.com, then we get to choose between these three different sort of themes for recipes. And so you kind of have to use your imagination a bit with this demo, because in practice, this application would be implemented as like a backend process that runs every week or something, that generates the emails that go out to the users. But we packaged it as a front end application just to see that from a demo perspective. So let's say we want to see what we can recommend for Alice in terms of heart healthy recipes. And so Alice might select the kind of recipes she's interested in, or we could just give her random ones every week, but still based on like random categories, still based on her purchase history. So if you click heart healthy, then it works. And indeed, it recommends a beetroot dal with spiced cabbage. And it says you'd probably like this recipe because you previously bought ginger and turmeric. And it's good for your heart because it's low in saturated fat and high in fiber. That's pretty cool. Like, I actually think Alice is more likely to click on that and add those items to her basket because it is specialized to her preferences. And similarly, red pepper and coconut, and so on.
I do want to say there was probably a healthy good amount of caching in the back end there, because it's never that fast.
Exactly. So I was just going to try and, in fact, let me show you what it normally looks like, because it's kind of interesting to watch it running. So I just restarted the dev server here. So there's a dev server mode that we're currently running in here. I guess restarting the dev server will have blown away the cache because it's running inside Docker. So if we do that again, this is the normal experience. So you can see what's happening inside here is that I can show you the GPT script as well. It runs a recipe query tool, and then the purchases query tool, and then based on those two files, outputs the recipes that you think the user would like based on their purchase history. And so you can see it here, like coming up with, we thought you'd probably like this because of that, and so on. And yeah, so it worked. It worked a second time. Cool. So that's the demo. What I'm going to show you next is how can we actually deploy that thing to production. So actually, I'll show you one more slide to show you kind of the picture of the architecture here. And then I'll show you how you can actually go and get that thing that's currently running just on localhost, remember. Let's see how we can deploy that to production. So what did we just see? Well, we've got these two modes. We've got the development mode, where you've got a code repo, which is, it's this side. So you've got a code repo, which is this repo here. We've got some GPT scripts in this demo recipes repo, and we've got the front-end code in the repo. We've also got this tiny little Helix.yaml file, which just tells Helix, oh, hey, look, these are where the GPT script files are. So you kind of point to it with this glob pattern. And then we've got this dev runner, which is running inside a Docker container on your local development machine. So if you're a front-end developer, it's pretty easy to install Docker Desktop, and then you can just run like the dev server with a single command. And then you've got the front end, which is like you could be React or Vue.js, or it could be like whatever front end framework is trendy this week. And that will do hot reloading. So every time you change the front end, the browser will update. And it will also do hot reloading for the GPT scripts, because the GPT scripts are bind mounted into the Docker container from the local machine. And GPT script executes, like reads the GPT script every time you run it. So it'll just like every time you change the file and then rerun the action in the front end, it will immediately it'll like just work. The production deployment then is a bit more interesting, because what we've got in Helix Cloud is a new Git integration. So this is something we didn't have in Helix before. And what that means is that you can connect Helix Cloud to your Git repo, just like you connect Netlify or Vercel or GitHub Actions or whatever you use to deploy your front-end application. So now with just a single Git push, you can deploy changes both to the front end and also via that GitHub webhook into Helix Cloud to update the GPT scripts it runs inside those like nice little secure micro VMs.
So this one, like what I like about this is pretty cool. Is like when you think about like developing an application, like we'll always like historically you'd say like there's like front end and back end. You know, you do like JavaScript in your front end, and then your back end might be Go or something else, backend services or whatever. But you can see now with like, it's kind of like with GPTScript. It's like, well, GPTScript is like the AI backend. It's the AI logic. Yeah. So it's like, it's just adding another component. So if you think of like, oh, well, like I already know how to do front end development and maybe I already have some backend services and whatnot, then it's like, now I just need to throw in some AI logic. And so it's like this kind of, it packages it so nicely of like, oh, so I just need to write these GPT scripts. I can kind of include it into the application, and then it deploys as a new kind of like runtime service. So it's not like, I really like that. It's like you're using Netlify. It's like you didn't have to like reinvent the whole way you were doing everything. It's just like this one new component you're adding in. But I also like, well, obviously I like because I wrote GPT script, but I like the fact that it's like it puts AI into this one domain. It's like, I know this is my AI logic and I can just focus on that little portion there. And it's not kind of bleed through, into all the different layers and all these weird different ways. It's like, it's very isolated, very easy to kind of test and understand. So.
Yeah. Awesome. No, I completely agree. And so you can add the JavaScript library really easily to any front-end app. And so the idea here is it's kind of like Firebase for AI is another way of thinking about it. So it's a front-end service. You just paste in this kind of public API token, which is meant to be public, and then you can call like app.runScript with the path to the GPT script inside your repo. And then you just get the result back as a string in your JavaScript, and then you can parse it. So you didn't have to think about the backend at all there.
Yeah, and the thing that's often like people don't realize, like, because you think like, oh, I'm going to do all this crazy AI stuff in my application, is like the interface to AI is actually extremely simple. It's like, for the most part, it's kind of like string in, string out. Like maybe you want to generate an image, so you might pass in an image. I mean, if you want to interpret an image, you might pass in an image, or maybe you get an image back. But it's like the interface to AI is so basic. And then the only time you get into structure, not like instead of just doing string in, string out, you can pass an object in and get an object back, because programs like objects, but like AI doesn't care. It's really just a string. It's a JSON string that looks, so it's surprisingly simple once you figure out, like, if you're designing an application, you figure out, okay, where's my AI logic? Where do I need to basically just design that as kind of like, what's my AI function? If I put this thing in, I get the thing out. Write the GPT script, integrate it in somewhere in your application, and it's pretty straightforward. It's surprisingly easy.
Yeah, exactly. And so I can show what Darren's talking about there, because the AI logic in this case, like I went over this really briefly while it was running. It's like this is GPT script. It's really nice and easy to write it. You just say these are the tools I need. Pretty sure I identified earlier that we actually only need those ones. And then it's like, run this tool to get the recipes, run this tool to get the products. And then like all of this intelligence in here is like, recommend recipes that you think the user would like. And it will, and then write a justification based on like the nutritional information in the recipes. And it, like, the LLM is saving you so much coding if you try to implement that like back-end logic, the sort of fuzzy human language stuff with JavaScript or Go or PHP or whatever. So then the interface between this like nice, easy to reason about natural language sort of application logic is that you then say, I want you to respond in this format. Give me recipe.name, recipe.summary, recipe.image URL. And then on the JavaScript side, it's really just like you import this apps client. You pass it in this token. I'll show you where you get the token from quickly. So when you go into Helix, this is app.tryhelix.ai. I'll just show you. You can get to that like from our website just by clicking login. That was Helix.ml. And then you can go to apps, and then you can click add new app. And then it will ask you to connect with your GitHub account. And then it will show you all the GitHub repos that you have access to in your GitHub account. So here, it was a demo. I've done so many demos in my life, demo recipes. So I won't actually link it now, but when you go in and link it, it just says connect repo. And then what that's going to do is it's going to create a key pair in GitHub so that even if it's a private Git repo, Helix still has access to read the contents of it because it needs to read the GPTScript files. And it adds a new webhook as well so that it notifies Helix every time something in that repo changes so that you can like just immediately update the versions of the GPT scripts that are running there. So I won't hit connect repo because I already did, but when you do, then you get something that looks like this. Helix has automatically figured out which GPT scripts there are in that repo. You can pass environment variables in. You can specify which domains are allowed. And this is really important because this is kind of how you do security on the front end. Is like you say, you're only allowed to run this if the user is on this domain that the owner of the domain controls.
Like this is cores, all the cores headers.
Exactly,
stuff?
it's just cores, yeah. And then you get these API keys, and these API keys are specific to that application. So as soon as you paste this API key into this access token variable in the app client constructor, then it will connect to Helix Cloud, and it knows which application to serve there, and therefore like which Git repo to go and look up the scripts in. And so it automatically pulls out all the GPT scripts into the configuration there. And you can see the latest hash of the repo. So that'll get updated every time we push to it, basically. Okay, so I don't want to keep rambling for too long. I will, however, try and do the demo of actually changing something in the app. So let's say I snuck this word prob in here. We thought you would prob like this recipe, but I don't really like that word. I don't think we should use that sort of shortened version of probably. So I'm going to take that out. I'm going to do a git diff. Oh, and I can also test at the same. Oh, this is a bit dangerous. I can also test at the same time whether we actually needed those other things. So what I can do first is I can test that locally, like a good developer. I don't want to push to Git until I've tested my change. And then I'm going to go healthy heart. That's just going to take a second. So what that's doing, by the way, is we've actually put some SQLite code in as GPT scripts as well. And for the demo, we just bundle a SQLite file in with the repo. But obviously, in practice, you'd want to use tools to connect to your real database from inside GPTScript, which you can do. And actually, the secrets management that you just built is going to be super useful for that. Yes, it worked. So we thought you would, and it now doesn't say prob anymore. And we've also tested that the script didn't need those other things. So what I can do is I'm just going to do a commit. I'm going to say remove unneeded tools, update text. If I was being a good developer, I should probably do a pull request, but I'm not because it's just a demo. And then what we can see here is that the production version of the application, let's just check. So that's 114B is the version. Let's go in and check that this Yep, that's already updated to that hash. So GitHub delivered the webhook. So this is the production version of the app. I'm going to say I'll show you Bob's preferences just for something a bit interesting. And that's going to take just a second longer to say hello, bob@bob.com. And then let's see what Bob likes for his spicy specials. And I can show you what's happening under the hood here as well, which is that while that's running, we've got this thing we built a few years ago called Test Faster, which spins up these micro VMs. And so this is the micro VM that's actually running there. And if I'm quick enough, I should be able to SSH into that micro VM and show you what's happening inside. Because people like that kind of thing, right? So I'm inside the micro VM here. Make it big, and then I can do journal ctl-u gpt-script-f. Oh, I was too slow. It already finished in the background. But you can see here, this is exactly the same thing that we had running locally, but running securely inside that micro VM. And let's see if it did a good job.
More prob. Yeah, you got rid of. You would not probably or prob like this. You just would like it.
Exactly.
This is so cool because it's like it's like, you know, you've basically like come up with like it's like an AI apps PaaS, which is really interesting because it's like like the way we wrote GPTScript was like the intention was like just keep it as simple, like it's kind of like a Python CLI. It's just an interpreter, and we're not trying to solve all the problems in the world of like how to run this and everything. Like just keep it as this simple basic thing. And so if you're running it client side, it's pretty easy, and we run all these scripts. But we already know like oh, if you wanted to host the server side, there's a bunch of all these other issues you have to start worrying about, secrets and caching and all this stuff or whatever. Where it's like, and we had thought about, you know, oh, we can solve them all in GPTScript, but it didn't really make sense because they're kind of general concerns that exist for any application. So you need kind of like a platform for it. But what I like about this is like, even though like these general concerns are they're similar to, you know, issues you might have with running Go or JavaScript or whatever, there's still some things that are very unique to AI. That like the approach on how we're doing it, where it's like, it makes sense to actually have a dedicated, you know, so it's like this, it's like kind of like this category makes sense. It's like, I could see that like, it's kind of like GPTScript hosting or whatever, you know, it's like, because there's very specific problems. It's just the way that we're approaching AI, where it's like there's things like when we make design decisions with GPTScript, where it's like, oh, well, we kind of know this is the best way to do it operationally, because like of our history of running infrastructure, but we actually make the opposite thing where it's like, no, actually, no, this is better for users, and then operationally somebody will figure it out, you know? So it's like something like, you know, PHP is wildly popular, but terrible to run, you know, like server side or something, but it's the most popular. It runs the majority of the web or whatever. So it's like, we figured those things out. So it's like, we're optimizing to get a good user experience of getting people active writing AI stuff. And then kind of assuming it's like, people kind of figure out all those hosting issues and stuff. And so it's really cool to see that you're doing this. Cool. It's just like, it's really cool.
Nice. Thanks. Cool. So I'll just run through the rest of the slides. I mean, I think this is some code that I already showed, but the basic idea is here. It's super easy to do this now. If you just need JavaScript and natural language to build complex AI-powered apps, just import app client from Helix.ml apps client, and then pass in the token that you copy paste out of the Helix UI. And then you can write code like app client.run script, pass in the path to the script in the repo, and then you pass in input parameters like this. And then on the other side, the natural language, like I just wanted to highlight kind of the immense power that goes into the phrase insert justification based on nutritional information. It just uses the meaning of the category of the recipe, plus the information that it's got at hand to come up with something that's actually compelling to a user. And that means that you can do this stuff at scale. Like if Waitrose has got like, I don't know, 1 million customers, you could run a batch job that runs GPTScript 1 million times every week and sends them all customized recommendations. And they would actually be good recommendations that would maybe help them eat better, or certainly would generate more revenue for the business.
Spend more.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to point out that people don't realize, because it's like, if you get into kind of like AI and Python, there's all these like prompting libraries and stuff to generate prompts and stuff like that. And like what we've done with GPTScript, and a lot of this is kind of the benefit of starting slightly later than everyone else. Of like, we basically started with GPT-4, was that we realized like you just put like insert justification, like the text there. There's zero, like we're not doing anything in GPTScript. There's no templating, no processing. We just give that string to AI, and AI understands it and just goes, oh yeah, you wanted me to replace it with the interpretation of this sentence. So it's like, normally if this was like, if I was to do this programmatically, you're like, oh, let me use a templating language and use some syntax. And then that's a variable or a function, which would then actually call up. And it's like, no, forget all of that. Like just, it's very simple. Like what I've seen with GPTScript is like when you give it to engineers is like they have a tendency to over optimize of like, they know how to solve the problem traditionally and be like, oh, okay, this is how I need to do it. And it's like, no. Like start with a stupid, dumb, naive approach. A lot of times it works. And then once you figure out the dumb, naive approach, then you just optimize for the issues. Like if it hallucinates a little bit, then fix it. If it, it's slow, then, I really like what you did in there, putting had a little bit of code in there where it's like, you probably could have figured out a way to get AI to come up with those SQL statements, but it's like, what's the point? Like you can just have it drop into a little bit of like shell script and then just run the exact ones, and it's going to be faster anyways. So it's cool, this approach. It's like, I don't know. I just wanted to point that out because it's like, it's so simple. I'm just amazed, like, because this demo is really cool. And it's like, and you look at the guts of like, what do I actually need as an end user to do this? And it's like, what you have on the screen is practically it. It's like, you already have an app. You already have some way to send emails, I'm sure. Like how do you do the AI portion? You just write this little thing, you integrate it right here into your code. It's like, it just blows me away how,
why this is impactful is because it expands to the footprint of who can do this stuff. It just is, the barrier to entry is so low that even your most junior, team members can kind of bang these things out. I mean, we saw, a team of about 25 people pick up AI in a week or two, and using it every day and starting to learn how to incorporate it into what they do. It's just the learning curve comes really down. I'm excited though, because like why I love this demo, Luke, is it's a business use case that every single company has. Literally, I've got an enormous amount of data about what my customers do. I know I could do generative stuff. How can I do generative stuff that actually aligns with, giving them better information? I mean, I do a lot of our family's shopping, and I would love it if my retailer was coming to me every week with, hey, here's, not just recipes. Here's what's on sale this week. We know you often cook fajitas. The fajitas are on sale this week. Bell peppers are on sale. Like, hey, there's a great, you seem to like fajitas. What about Greek fajitas? We built this recipe. Like, there's so much power in these LLMs for them to actually give me a better experience, to the point where, I've never wanted to do online food shopping, but if it was actually coming to me with like, hey, dinner tonight, here's some cool ideas, put your dinner together, boom, 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 and pick it up when you pull up. If I could do that from work and show up and know that what I'm going to be cooking, that would make my life easier, especially if it understood me. This is what I'm cooking for kids. I care about these things.
Yes. It's so funny, Shannon, listen to you, because you're so excited about like what you can accomplish. And I'm excited about how we accomplished it. Because it's like, I think it's so cool that like, because you're saying it lowers the barrier, but like even like not even lowering the barrier is like, it puts the AI into this nice bucket where it's like, I can focus on the AI logic and kind of unit test that, get that right, and then easily integrate it anywhere. So it's like, I don't have to be like, oh, my front end developer, because I need to put it into that application, the front end developer who's like, really cares about JavaScript and CSS now needs to do all this AI and all this, it's like you can just kind of like, it's just so nicely separated and it's so easy to do. And then once you have it, because like we have kind of this tools hosting, like you can just put it into a GitHub repo and just point to that tool. You can just easily integrate it anywhere. So it's just just get excited about that.
Nice. So I wanted to spend just a couple of minutes and then leave a bit of time for questions. A couple of minutes talking about roadmap. So there's some things I'm excited about adding to this. So firstly, being able to run GPTScript entirely on local models. Now we've talked about this a lot, but as you can see in the architecture diagram here, Helix has historically been quite focused on locally hosted models. We think there's a ton of good like regulatory compliance reasons why people would want to be able to do that and run things privately on their own in their own data center or in their own VPC. There's work in progress to enable that with GPTScript, as we saw a couple of weeks ago on the live stream. So actually getting that working for this demo would be cool, especially using models that are hosted on Helix, because then you can say like you've got this entire stack, you can put it like into more private, sensitive use cases, like healthcare, for example. And then there's adding support. Basically, this piece isn't really a GPTScript specific thing, but like we've just added this Helix.yaml thing to the system. We want to expand that so that as well as GPTScripts, we can add support for referencing RAG databases that have been pointed to, that you can reference fine-tuned models that you've created using Helix, and then also make it possible to embed. So you can call these things from a front end or an API, but also just if you do want a chatbot, then just being able to embed a single script tag to drop a chatbot into an existing application, and then that chatbot having the tools that the user has access to in that application as well, so that the chatbot can do things in the application on behalf of the user. I think that's really exciting. And that would all use GPTScript as well. And then the next thing is, I got really excited when we first plugged GPTScript in about running a browser inside the tiny little micro VM that is running, and then like putting a VNC. If people don't, VNC is quite an old technology, and I'm feeling old these days. But like VNC is like a way of like remote accessing a server. So you could remote access the browser that the AI is controlling, and then if the AI is executing jobs in the browser, you'd be able to see it like in a little window inside your browser while it's doing it. Which reminds me of, you know, the Devin demo of like the Devin, the AI developer. Like Devin has a browser tool that it has access to, and you can see it there in the demo. And I thought, oh, we can do that same thing with this GPTScript in a micro VM. So I'm kind of, I really want to find time to plug that in. And then there's testing as well, right? So if Helix Cloud is a Git hook for your repo, a very natural thing to do would be to run some tests before you deploy the change. And then it's like CI for your AI application. And I'm actually really excited about being able to express your end-to-end integration tests in natural language, because you could then make the AI do things that mean that you don't have to like add ID tags to all your CSS elements and then craft these like really annoying strings that identify which button to click in Selenium and stuff like that. I think you could drive that all from the LLM, and then you could run those integration tests kind of in these micro VMs. And an interesting AI specific characteristic of that is that sometimes AI models are non-deterministic. So actually, you might, instead of just running the test once, like you do with software, you might want to run it 10 times and then give the result a score out of 100%. Like how good is it? Rather, it's like like a percentage rather than a fixed like true or false. So we plan to do that just by having like foo_test.gpt is like a test file, and then you could like probably specify those in the helix.yaml and say run those, and then the GPTScript would just like output pass or fail probably, and you just tell it to do that, and it using the browser and stand up the local JavaScript app inside the micro VM as well, and like end-to-end test the whole thing. Then longer term, I'm excited about agents. and being able to like do long-running things or background tasks and running agents based on triggers. So imagine that like every time there was a Git commit to your repo, or every time you got an email, you triggered one of these things to like automatically classify your emails, or like respond to people, or some crazy thing, or like do a code review on the code that was just pushed to your Git repo. So being able to like connect these things to triggers, and because you can already call GPT scripts from other GPT scripts, it would be you could build quite sophisticated agents out of these GPT scripts. And yeah, then last thing I wanted to say is just thank you, Darren, Shannon, and team for building this. It's really cool, and I'm glad that we could integrate it into our platform. So there's some links. There's a demo on the demo repo is github.com/helix.ml /demo recipes, which is here. And then we just put together a quick tutorial before the call that literally shows you everything you need to do this yourself, including copying and pasting that thing. But then it also has the complete recommendation app that we showed you here, and it gives you step-by-step instructions on how to fork it and then set that up and run it on your own Helix Cloud account, deploy to production, and so on. And yeah, that's it. If you're interested in what we showed, like give me a shout. Luke at Helix.ml.
Luke, this was great. Thank you so much. I think this was a great demo. Lots of great feedback coming in online as well. So really well done. You know,
Thanks.
from a market perspective, you know, one of the exciting things is Helix is, you know, has a SaaS front end. This is technology you can get working on today and play with. So if you haven't already, sign up for an account, give it a play, go do that, try Helix.ml.ai experience that you can get to from their website. That was really cool. And I think you can go a long way just building these things yourself. At the same time, you know, where you know, so many of the conversations I'm having on the business side about GPTScript and with organizations are about, you know, how to get these applications launched quickly. I think people see this opportunity. They want to move faster than their competitors. So I know you guys are excited to work with companies. So anyone interested in connecting, you know, Luke and I are already talking to a number of people about projects. So reach out, let us know, and we will we'll happily set up some time to get in touch with you and talk about your use cases. So with that, we're actually kind of out of time. I think if people have questions, you know, fire them off in the chat, and we'll kind of go on Twitter or YouTube or LinkedIn or wherever you're at, and we'll do our best to answer them there. But this was great. I really appreciate the demo today. Luke, Darren, thank you as well for a great demo. And I think we'll be back again next week at around the same time. So if anyone has anything they want to join us for, like Luke has, and demo anything, please reach out. We're excited to have guests on these meetups as well.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's fun. This is really cool. I'm really impressed with it. I love it. It's cool.
That's very kind. All right.
Cheers, all right, guys. Everyone. Have a wonderful Friday, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.